You know it's going to be another exciting episode of Primetime News when the lead story has to do with none other than the Kardashians.
Oh my God.
That's right. I can't wait to get your comments on this story. If you've never been to the Kardashian Closet website before, this is their online reselling platform where you could scroll down and you could click on whichever Kardashian or Jenner you want. Here, we'll click on Kim's lips to go inside here and see, all right, we're in. And you could see all sorts of different fashion items that each one of them is reselling. So for Kim, you could see that there's a $35 tube top, or there's a $100 bathing suit, or there's a multi-$100 skirt, or there's a several $1,000 jacket and matching skirt. Now, since the platform started, I have not heard of any significant controversy related to it, which is remarkable since they are often associated with a controversy. But that all changed this week when Khloe Kardashian was attacked in the media and social media for trying to resell clothing from her daughter, whose name is True. And I'm going to show you an example. Now, it's not just that she was reselling stuff from her daughter or trying to, it was the prices of the items. So I'll show you one example here. So this is some Gucci tennis shoes. These are pre-walkers. They're pre-owned too. I mean, they were used by her daughter. You could even see in the back, there's like scuff marks in the back of the shoe. $250 plus $15 shipping. Now, instinctively, I know a lot of people watching this are probably rolling their eyes. They're exclaiming out loud, that's ridiculous, that's crazy, or what, or something like that. Well, hold on a second. Hold that thought, okay? Because we're going to do some cross-checking, a little prime time investigation, and see what other things we could kind of dig up about this. Now, before I do that, let me get into some of the other immediate reactions that people had on her Twitter page reacting to her posting about some of these items that were listed for sale. So one person said, who would pay that much for children's clothing, let alone used? Who gives a damn about brand names? Now, I know there's a lot of people who feel that way. I personally would never pay that much for brand name kid shoes, but there are a lot of people out there who do that. And a lot of people in the reselling community who also will find shoes like that and they will resell it for $100 or multi-$100 prices. Like, check this out. Now, this isn't a reselling site, but it's a regular website called Child's Play Clothing. These are the same exact shoes, except they don't come from a Kardashian and they are brand new. But look at the price, $328 on them. The other main criticism then has to do with greed. Okay, so let's see some of the comments. So disgusted when these clothes could be donated to people in need. Everything is about money with Kardashians. I gave all my stuff away to people that could use them. Others echoed that sentiment. So another person said, why in the world are you selling these? COVID produced a lot of needy families. Find one or two or three. Another angrily asked, are you broke? These prices are ridiculous. One other person says, goes to show their level of greed is above average. Now, there is probably something to that with the greed element to it. I say that when you start to see prices that do go way off of what it seems like it should be. Now, I'm not a fashion expert, particularly in kids jeans. So if you know a lot about kids jeans, comment down below if you're really big into fashion. But this is another example of something on the site, and this brought a lot of criticism. This pair right here, Fendi jeans, $495. These are kids jeans. It's not like Khloe wore them. These are kids jeans, size 6A, $15 shipping. Well, I can't find them on eBay, for example. I can find Fendi kids jeans, children's jeans, but the most is $80 plus $12.65 shipping. So nothing that even goes over $100. Granted, I can't find those exact ones, but I even looked back into Terapeak and I saw nothing at all related to any Fendi kids jeans over the past year that even came close to selling to that amount. Nothing over $100. So there is some point there, right there to that greed part. But every single week in the news that I read through and curate, I could put up a story of somebody criticizing resellers, like regular resellers like us, who go into thrift stores and sell anything at all. Doesn't matter. One pair of jeans, one shirt, one video game, doesn't matter. Anything like that is considered greedy and taking from people in need. I always argue against that by saying that resellers are supporting some of the programs that are put forth through a lot of these thrift stores. I'm not going to get into the whole CEO thing. I know people criticize the CEO of Goodwill and Salvation Army. That's not the point of this video. Same thing could be argued for just local mom and pop thrift shops. The notion that if any of the Kardashians, Chloe, or anyone else doesn't donate their clothes to the local thrift store, that's somehow taking away from them being able to get clothes. I just don't buy it, because I've seen so many stories in the news, especially since the pandemic, of thrift stores literally telling the public, stop donating to us because we have so much stuff. In fact, so much stuff that they're throwing the stuff in landfills and dumpsters because they just can't get rid of it fast enough. There's just too much of it coming in. All right, so let me know what you think. Greedy, selfish, perfectly within her right to do as a business owner. Totally support it. What is your take on it? As for me, I say just let the free market just work its way. And if there's people who are going to be really angry at the fact that she put these jeans up for $495, no one's going to buy them. They're not going to sell. And, hopefully she doesn't put stuff like that up again. But you know what? If there's an interest in it, if people want it and they want to buy it, then there's a market out there for it. So, it's worth whatever someone's going to pay for it. All right. Now, this story is absolutely bonkers as we transition into our primetime crime watch series. And I just cannot believe this. Casey the Rockstar Flipper did a story on it earlier this week when it broke, but I'm going to show you the actual video of it. And when you see this, it's going to blow your mind. Thieves in LA are looting freight trains filled with packages from UPS, FedEx, and Amazon. And that includes some of your reselling packages are on there. So check this out.
Thieves have been raiding the cargo containers on the trains that stop here to unload for months, leaving behind shredded boxes and things they don't want. Sources tell me the locks Union Pacific uses are easy to cut, and LAPD says it won't respond to reports of a train robbery unless Union Pacific asks them for help, which LAPD tells us is rare. When we were out, we saw someone running off with a container used to hold smaller packages.
Wait, I just got to stop there for a second. Can you imagine if that guy who they saw running away was like some reselling YouTuber, like the LA Picker or something like that too? I just totally made that up. He's out there with his GoPro and he's like talking about bolos and maybe doing like a live stream or something. That would be crazy. But anyway, let's go back. Let me show you another part of this, just another view of it, which just, again, just mind-boggling to me.
A source tells me that these tracks right here were cleaned up just about 30 days ago. And already, as you can see, there are thousands of boxes littering these tracks. In other words, this is a very big problem. This is video of Union Pacific crews cleaning up back on December 11th. Around the same time, someone snapped this photo of boxes spilling out of the back of the train. In a statement, Union Pacific Railroad said these rail crimes pose a serious safety threat to the public, our employees, and local law enforcement officers. We've increased the number of Union Pacific special agents on patrol, and we have utilized and explored additional technologies to help us combat this criminal activity. But local law enforcement who work around these tracks tell me they don't see thieves shipping off anytime soon.
Yeah, and you know why that's the case? Because the thieves have no fear that anything significant is going to happen to them in the vast majority of the cases. That has to be the explanation, because there's no other explanation for how you could see that many packages continuously open and gone through out of freight delivery trucks, off of trains, and just scattered all over the tracks like that. Union Pacific isn't doing enough about it, which is crazy considering what's happening to their business. Local law enforcement isn't doing enough about it. And so there needs to be greater consequences on the books that are consistently reinforced so criminals get the message that they can't do this. Let me know your thoughts on this in the comments. Crazy. All right, now our bad boy of the week is this sailor from the Royal Navy who was jailed after stealing special boat service dive watches and then was selling them on eBay. These watches are specifically designed for the UK Special Forces, so they're not something that you would ordinarily expect to show up on eBay. But this guy had access to them because he was a storeman on the HMS Kent, which is a British warship. So he was abusing a position of trust and authority and probably thought that if he just did it here and there, he wouldn't get caught. Problem is, since they don't normally show up on eBay, buyers were doing their due diligence and they were, contacting the Royal Navy and the government to check and ask, are these authentic? And once they became alerted to it and saw the listing and just did the paperwork and tracked things back, they figured that this guy was the one who did it. This was going on for 6 months. It's never worth doing this. It's never worth stealing anything from work. I don't care where you work. Don't think you're not going to get in trouble. Don't think no one's going to notice, because eventually they do notice. And it's just not worth what happens. Like in this case, he had to pay compensation. He was dismissed from the Navy. And he also, as said, had a jail term as well. He was in military prison. He got a 3-month sentence and he has to at least spend 60 days in there. So, again, crime doesn't pay. Right now, if you use the Shop Goodwill website like I do, they disclosed this week that there was a data breach. Now, fortunately, there wasn't any financial information that was breached, so there wasn't any credit card information that was taken. However, there was personal information that includes your first and last name, your email address, your phone number, and your mailing address. The problem with that is that criminals can take that and that could lead to identity theft, especially if they match it up to information from other data breaches that are out there that are being resold on the black market. So I would say at the least go in and make sure that you change your password on the website and monitor whatever identity theft programs you might have. Check your credit reports and stuff. You can go to Credit Karma, for example, and run a credit check for free. I'm not associated with them, by the way. It's nothing like that. But just make sure you're on guard if you had any kind of account on Shop Goodwill. All right, so PayPal was hit with a lawsuit this week for freezing customer accounts and funds, and for not even telling people why their funds have been frozen, or giving people inconsistent explanations as to why, which ultimately still did not lead them to get their money back. So there are currently 3 plaintiffs involved in the case. The attorney is looking for more people who might want to take part as part of a class action lawsuit and be plaintiffs as well. So if you're interested in that, you could always look the case up on Google and reach out to the attorney. I know there are many people in the reselling community who have been affected by these PayPal fund freezes. If you're comfortable sharing that in the comments section, go ahead. Let me know if you were successful in getting your money back, and if so, how, or if you weren't. There are several examples that were provided as part of the lawsuit. One involved a lady named Lena Evans, who said that she had $27,000 frozen from her account. She said that she was reselling clothes on eBay, and then she was exchanging the money for a poker league that she owned and for a nonprofit that helped women with various needs. But I want to give people a warning, because I know there's a lot of people who do like auction deals in the reselling community and stuff and exchange money on PayPal that way with friends in the reselling community. If you're making a business transaction, the best thing to do is not do it friends and family, even if it's with a friend. The reason for that is that even though it could be legitimate friends and family, the problem is that if PayPal sees enough of that, they start to police it and get suspicious, and that could be enough to get your account shut down. And technically, since it is really a business transaction, it's best to do it as a business transaction where there is going to be some fee taken out, which also does help to give the buyer PayPal protection, as well as giving you some protection. Now, there's another instance of a woman named Ronnie who said $100,000 of her money was frozen by PayPal, and she never got an acceptable reason as to why. I should say there were inconsistent explanations, though. One rep said it was because she used the same IP and computer as other PayPal users, so that looks suspicious. Get this one. Another said it was because she sold yoga clothing at 20 to 30% lower than retail. So what's happening there, right, is that PayPal is looking at it and they're being like the judge and jury, and they're saying that looks suspicious. It looks like it might be stolen. Well, for those in the reselling community, we know we get stuff for really cheap. I mean, it almost might feel like it's stolen. It's not, but we just got it for really low price, and so it's lower than, other people have it for. Some other person said it was because she was using multiple accounts. Then the worst one was someone who had $172,000 frozen without an explanation why, at least initially. Then apparently there was some um, information that was provided in a letter that said the person violated PayPal's user agreement by accepting payments for the sale of injectable fillers not approved by the FDA. I don't know the legal right that they have to do that. I'm not an attorney. If you have more legal knowledge than I do, please, put your take on it down below. Does the lawsuit stand a chance? I know my friend Gem Mint on YouTube recently did a story on this, and you should go check out his video on it. He's actually done several. He had a very creative way in which he got his money back actually through PayPal. He kind of used PayPal against itself to get his money back from them. It was really hilarious. I won't ruin his video for you or spoil it, so go check it out. I'll link to it. And then also, if you've been affected by payment freezes to other companies, let me know that. I know Kat the Nurse Flipper recently did a video where she was hit with a freeze of funds from Mercari. And so if you were affected by that too, let me know. All right, so Disney created their typical craze in the reselling community this week after they released their limited edition Figment popcorn bucket. You could see Figment right there in purple if you're not familiar with them. Cracks me up to see him as a popular character now, because I remember back in the 80s, most people that I knew thought of him as annoying. As part of that journey into the imagination attraction, then he kind of faded away into oblivion, and then they kind of brought him back. People were nostalgic for him, and now we've got this popcorn bucket. And so people were literally standing in line. Like, you could actually see here, this is at Epcot. People were getting it online, taking pictures, and instantly posting it on eBay, with some of the bids going up to close to $1,000, $810, $650, $500. Now, of course, I can't tell you if those were actually paid for, but I'm sure that there were some that sold for a couple of $100 at least. All right, now what takes this story to another level entirely is that there was a lady who could not get her hands on one of these Figment popcorn buckets. So what she decided to do was to sketch it and to list it on eBay in auction format and see what she could get from it and donate 90% of the proceeds to Habitat for Humanity. Now, it turns out that the drawing came out pretty bad. She actually called it a bad artwork sketch. So that's not just me saying it. I actually think it looks more like Porky Pig than anything else. Not saying I could do any better, but just saying. She also said that it was bad. There you could see it here. I'll make it a little bit bigger for you. So what happened is, since eBay has no control over their auctions and of course no consequences, sound familiar, to anyone who violates the rules and doesn't pay for things that they bid for, well, after a short period of time, the bids went all the way up to over $10,000. So the lady got suspicious and she canceled the auction. Turns out that the person who won it reached out and said, yeah, that was an accidental bid, so I need to cancel it. Uh-huh. So she decided not to try this again and to try a different approach. She would take the original and then she would shuffle it up with 100 copies that she would number, and she would auction them off for 10 bucks a piece, and she would do the same thing, donate 90% of it to Habitat for Humanity. I did see that there were some of these sales that were made, but then it also looks like eBay took it down and shut it down. I don't know why they would shut that down. It does seem like it would be a good cause. Why can't she copy her own artwork and sell it? It's not currently listed, but it seems like a bunch of other people started to run with this idea, and now there you have it, a whole bunch of other people trying to sell their bad artwork sketch of Figment. Well, Facebook and eBay are at it again this week. This has to do with the eBay for Business page on Facebook. If you haven't used that before, many people find that to be an easier way to get issues resolved with eBay as opposed to going through the phones with them. If you reach out to them on that page, though, what they're going to ask you for before dealing with you is they're going to want to know your email address and they're going to want to know your zip code. That's how they verify your identity. Well, apparently, Facebook doesn't like that. They don't want that kind of information being sent for some reason. They consider it private information. So, what they're now doing is if you reach out to them, they're sending you a message and they're directing you to authenticate yourself through a third party site. So, just be warned if you reach out there, it's going to take a little bit extra time to authenticate things and get a message and a response back. In other eBay news, as of March 1st, 2022, everybody's billing cycle is going to start on the first of the month and go until the last calendar day. So everybody will be on the same page. So it'll be very predictable, easy to remember date going forwards. That's now possible due to the managed payment program. I just wanted everyone to be aware of that. All right, now COVID and reselling is once again in the news because this week the US government announced that people could order up to 4 COVID tests per household from them and that they would be delivered through a USPS. And that then led to the question of, can I resell my COVID tests online? Now, if you remember, I covered a story similar to this several weeks ago in Canada, where Canada announced that they were going after people who were price gouging on the COVID test. And I also mentioned that there were state attorney generals who already announced that they were going to go after people who tried to do this in the United States. My general answer to this would be for most people to stay away from this. The one exception would be if you're someone who actually has some kind of established deal with a company that produces these tests. That's the only way Amazon is allowing that to happen. And for the vast majority of people, maybe even everybody watching that video, that's just not going to be the case. You're not allowed to do it on eBay. You're not allowed to do it on Facebook Marketplace. But there are going to be people who are tempted to do it. And what's happening is that people are trying to do it and they're losing their accounts. It's not worth it. Just leave the COVID tests alone and resell clothes, video games, books, and all that other kind of stuff. All right, as usual, we're going to end off with some human interest stories, one sad and one that's inspiring, but someone in need of help, I think, from people in the reselling community. So hang on for that one. But right now, I want to take you to this thrift shop that was totally destroyed. I mean, totally destroyed from a fire that was caused by 2 homeless people who were arguing, which is ironic because the thrift store actually had programs in place to help the homeless out. Let me show you what happened to this business.
What was it like when you arrived on the scene? You saw the smoke coming up and just the building completely engulfed.
It was devastating just to know the loss to the community of the resources that were here in that building is very devastating.
And talk to me a little bit about, like you said, this gives back to the community. What are we losing from the community with this loss?
So it was an op shop was housed here, so you could get clothing, house goods for very little to no cost for people in our community that need it. And so now we're just going to have to figure out a way of how to rebuild that.
Wow, that is just crazy. That's not the only story like that. Just today, there was a story in New Jersey. A Goodwill shop lost their entire inventory in a fire. So I wanted to show you that visual just to show you what can happen sometimes in fires. Because, a lot of times in fires, you just see a picture of one room that has like a blackened window, and it doesn't always convey how serious these things can be. And that also goes for your reselling business. So let's say you're in a room, for example, with a space heater, make sure you shut the space heater off. Even put a little sign for yourself as you're walking out of the room to shut it off as a reminder. Because the last thing you need is your business getting destroyed by a fire as well. All right, now I want you to meet Miriam Gaudette. She has taken on a new mission to save books from landfills, but she is quickly finding out that her mission is a lot more difficult than it initially seemed because there's a lot more books than there is space. Seeing it, though, really takes it to another level. So let me show you exactly what she's dealing with here.
One of the ladies I worked with at the library, she contacted me and said, you know, this thrift store has an issue with the overflow of books. They don't know what to do with them. Can we maybe set up something? And then I thought, wow, if one thrift store is happy to have me come by and take these books off their hands, I bet you there are other thrift stores that are also very happy for me to show up and take the books off their hands. 5 years later, from when I started, I have almost 250,000 books. And 3 employees, and it just continues to grow. I need to somehow find a building. They're sitting here in a barn. It's not ideal. I would love to have all these books out of storage here and available to the public. However that happens, I don't know.
I know she needs to get in touch with some resellers like FBA Dave, Romer the Romer, and Katie Reeds. They all have successful reselling book businesses, some of whom are really specialized in handling large, massive volumes of books like this. And so there are systems that could be put in place to process this stuff better and to run a successful reselling book business through Amazon FBA, for example. If you're interested in learning more about that, I'll put links to interviews with all of those book resellers down below in the description section. All right, everyone. Well, that's another week of reselling news. These do take a lot of time to curate and put together. So if you're interested in supporting the news program and this channel, click on the join button there to see all the different levels of membership for the channel. I appreciate all your support, and I'll see you back at the next one, everyone. Take care.